Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Berger, and I'm here with my wife, Ilene, in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. We're just outside the Philadelphia area. We're members of the ATS, the American Technion Society National Board of Directors, and also the Technion Board of Governors. And I also serve as the president of the American Technion Society. Not only are we delighted to welcome our friends from across the United States today, but we are truly a North American program, since we're also joined by our friends from Technion Canada. Bonjour, welcome. Eileen.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. Steve and I have been involved with the American Technion Society for somewhere around 17 years. And I can sincerely say that one of our greatest pleasures is when we get to meet Technion students, either on campus in Haifa or when they're here in the United States on the annual student tour. I have to admit that one of the perks of meeting the students on campus is that we get to see all the adorable helper dogs being trained by our students. While Steve likes to visit the science labs, my joy is from meeting the special labs, the Labrador Retrievers. Actually, Anne, who is one of the students with us today, she volunteers to care and train for these incredible animals. Our first exposure to the Technion was at a brunch at a friend's home in which 3 students were featured. Meetings with students have made us feel more personally and emotionally connected to the university. When these impressive young scholars speak about their studies and convey their experiences, they not only inspire us, but they also strengthen our bond to the university by showing us the product of our support. Steve?
Thanks, Eileen. Just adding to Eileen's comments, it was these 3 Technion students we met at our friend's house 17 years ago who noted our passion with the Technion. And who would have believed that a 1.5 hour brunch back then would have so much positive effect and influence on our lives today? In considering the options of philanthropy, the leverage that an opportunity provides plays a big factor in our minds. Or put another way, we look at the return on our investment, the ROI, in terms of how many people benefit compared to the amount invested. When we were presented the opportunity to deepen our relationship to the students by creating the Visiting Fellows program, we immediately embraced it. What better way to showcase the Technion than by bringing a group of students to the United States to meet with as many people and as many cities as we could, so that they can dazzle others just the way we were dazzled 17 years ago and inspired. So it's our hope that this initiative will not only be an investment in the program, but also elevate its stature, because we see this as the strongest touch point around the university's greatest asset, its students. So even though we could not have anticipated that the inaugural year of the program would be virtual, we are nevertheless thrilled to be with you today to introduce these 6 amazing Technion ambassadors. I cannot call them kids, they're not, because a few of them actually have their own children, but each and every one of them is a sterling example of the brilliance and depth of character that the Technion students embody. Eileen?
As a special bonus this year, we're also joined by the Technion's Dean of Students, Professor Ilene Fishman. She came into her role just before the campus shut down due to COVID and can give us some insight into how this last year has affected the student body. I'll now turn this program over to Dean Fishman, who will introduce you to these outstanding representatives of Technion's excellence. After we hear from all of the students, we'll take questions from as many of you as possible. Please submit your questions using the Q&A function on the Zoom screen, and our friend Alyssa Gilstein, the ATS Development Director, based right here in Philadelphia, will join us and moderate the segment. Dean Fishman, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. And first of all, I really want to thank Steve and Ilene for taking on this Visiting Fellows program. And I really hope to see you soon here in Israel, in the Technion. Although in spirit, I already feel that you're with us, seeing the lovely background you had in your Zoom camera. So let me share a few slides with you and tell you what is it that we're doing. So the Dean of Students of the Technion is not like any other dean. We have 18 faculties in the Technion. Each of them has their own dean who deals a lot with the research and teaching. But as a dean of students, I'm dean of all the students of the Technion. And basically we take in my office care of all the non-academic issues that are related to the students. And as you see in my slide, our mission is really to foster a dynamic and inclusive and impartial campus that supports the academic and personal and social growth of all students of the Technion. We have about 70 people working, and we look over the dorms. For example, we have over 4,500 rooms in our dormitories in Technion. We deal with academic relations of students, so study abroad programs, etc. We work on career development of our students and prepare them for taking on jobs after their studies. We have a big center for advancement of learning, so we aid students with any issues they may have, emotional, family issues, academic issues. We provide them with counseling. We also have a psychological unit with expert psychologists to help the students in need. Of course, we aim to provide culture life, campus life, and financial aid. I will talk about this a little bit more later. So I give you a glimpse of the campus. This is, you saw the slide, the background slide of Steve Berger earlier. And this is what our pre-COVID campus looks like when we have activities and festivities in campus. And unfortunately, during COVID time, this is what it looks like. So the most we have is 15 or 20 students sitting outside with face masks on them. And this is what it's been like all over the world, actually. And I came into office at the beginning, January 2020, and I thought that I would be mainly dealing with culture and festivals and music and sports, and I had many ideas. But then 2 months into my role, you know, COVID came into our lives, and I was more busy with financial issues of the students and emotional stress and preventing dropouts and things along that line. But I do want to say that even we adjusted quickly to the Zoom era. And for example, in Hanukkah, we bought 4,500 sufganiyot. Can you imagine that? And we delivered them to each dormitory room, and we put the sufganiyot, as you see here, 5 in each bag, specifically to the students within. And you can see the smiling faces when they opened the door and found a little message from the dean's office and nice sufganiyot. We also had like a stand-up activity in the Zoom, and we even had cooking lessons in the Zoom. So this is Omer Miller here in the yellow picture. He is a well-known chef in Israel, and all the students who attended opened their cameras, and he taught everyone how to make, you see these nice chestnut gnocchi and something here, and they send us pictures. So we do try to maintain some kind of campus feeling, but I have to admit it's not a real thing. And we're all here to hear, we're all gathered here to hear the students, not to listen to me. But before I move on to introduce them, I really want to send you a big hug, a virtual hug, and to thank you. First of all, for your continued support of the Technion. I was really overwhelmed to hear the story that Steve told us about how he heard some people in the branch, students in the branch, and became a big Technion supporter and president of the ATS. So I really salute you. And I thank you for all of you ATS supporters for your continued support. And especially I'd like to give note to the Student Emergency Fund that the ATS, the American Technion Society, has provided us a few months ago. And it really made a very big difference in the lives of students, both undergraduate and graduate students on campus. And it enabled us to deliver funds to students who lost their jobs, who had their families get into some economical crisis. And it really made a difference. I don't have enough time to tell you all the stories, but believe me, it was really meaningful. And as a last note before, as I say, I present the students, let me stop share this. I would like to tell you a small story or a note. Instead of praising what we do, it's always better to hear good words from other people. So 2 months ago, I got a very touching email, which I would like to share with you. To the Technion management, Shalom. So it was headed for me, but for the entire Technion management. I am fortunate that my daughter Moria studied, developed, and shaped in your excellent institution. Moria's acquaintance with the Technion began 5 years ago with the adapted entrance exam that she had for acceptance to the Department of Architecture and Town Planning. My charming daughter Moria has mild cerebral palsy, and you convened for her special conditions which minimized and alleviated the influence of her disability while coping with the exam. Moria indeed passed the assessment with success. This achievement was the first in a series of many challenges that she handled, while you in the Technion encouraged and supported her in the journey to reach the final goal line. As a mother, I was not involved in her academic advancement, but I saw how calm and happy she was while developing and progressing in all aspects. As a citizen and a mother, I am proud that in our country lies an academic institution with international recognition and excellence that is also mindful for the individual and that encourages and supports students with disabilities. Yishar Koach, Naama Kessler. So this is not the end of the story, because when I forwarded this letter to the manager of the Center for Advancement of Learning, who was really involved with Moria, I discovered that Moria also had to deal with the sad loss of both her sister and father to cancer during her first year in the Technion. She is now a Technion architect and a hero, in my opinion. And this is how I would like to view the Technion, an elite academic institution with humane and moral virtues. So with that said, I'm very pleased to introduce you to this year's Berger Fellows. I think that after meeting them, you'll agree that they are exceptional and they're an exceptional group of students. And I'd like to begin with Ohad Einav.
Okay, we're ready?
Hello, Ohad. How are you this evening?
Hi, I'm great, thank you.
Good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. 1 second, let me just need to get my terrible towel into the photo. Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Ohad. I was born in Palo Alto, California. I am the 4th of 6 siblings. My parents are Russian immigrants who moved to Israel. My father studied in the Technion along with my uncle, and since they moved to the US and started a family there. I grew up and was raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I went to religious schools as my parents, religious Orthodox Jewish schools, as my parents became religious in California. And in the summer, well, after the summer of 2014, which was the summer of Operation Protective Edge of the IDF on the Gaza Strip, I decided to make Aliyah and join the army as a lone soldier, following also in my brother's footsteps, who did this before me in 2009. So I moved to Israel, and before drafting to the army, I joined a program called Garin Tzabar, where a lot of new immigrants, such as I, all lived together on a kibbutz. I lived in a kibbutz in the lower Galil, in the north of Israel. We were 20 lone soldiers drafting to the army together. I drafted in March of 2016 to the Maglan unit, which is in the Commando Brigade. It's a reconnaissance unit affiliated with the Paratroopers Brigade. And my army service was a little bit bumpy. It wasn't all roses and peaches. I got injured a year in. I had to switch units just if I wanted to stay as a combat soldier. But all is well. I got released from my service in March 2018, and right away I took off in preparations to study in the Technion. I entered my degree studying computer science, and now fast forward 2.5 years. I love it here. I love the field. I started working recently in PayPal part-time as a data scientist. We deal with all kinds of problems, leveraging data to deal with problems in fraud detection in various fields. And I'm very happy that I got this opportunity to be someone who can represent and at least show a little bit about what the Technion is about. Because for me personally, the Technion has only done amazing things. I mean, I found fields of interest. I found things that I'm passionate about. I found amazing friends here, friends that I feel like I can collaborate with in the future. I'm very passionate about data and everything that you can do with data. I am also a very big sports fan from my days in Pittsburgh. And sports also has lots of statistics and ways to play around there. So I'm looking forward to getting in on that action. Yeah. Oh yeah. I had prepared a few pictures to show, just to put some color to the context that I was sharing. All right. So this is me in the pre-army training. I'm in the blue shirt on the front with the Israeli flag on the sleeve. That is, I mean, it's painful to look at how my back is crooked. I don't know if it was the picture, but that was preparing for the training. I prepared with these guys, prepped for the army, and we drafted together to the army. Here, this is at my Beret Ceremony in October of 2016 with my friends from my Garin, other lone soldiers in the army. They came to support me. And this is me even after I served in the army. I wanted to put this in to show this is with my adopted family, and I just want to show the amazing connections that I've been able to cultivate since I moved to Israel. These are the kids from the adopted family of the kibbutz that I lived in while I served in the army. And a big part of my success and future success in Israel is, in my opinion, in large part to the connections that I've been able to develop with people in Israel, and amazing people here. And this is after my first year in the Technion, at the Dean's List ceremony. on the campus.
Pretty amazing, Ohad. So you're studying in Hebrew, actually, right? I mean, studies in the Technion are in Hebrew. So how are you doing with that? How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so my Army service, I had, during my Army service, I had weeks and months where I was completely enveloped in, Israeli friends, Israeli soldiers, not an American for miles. While there are Americans in the Army, especially in the paratroopers brigade, we also have a lot of lone soldiers. Specifically in my unit, there was less so. So it definitely helped me prepare for that. In terms of the terms and academic slang and learning, you get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out.
And the friends that you're making in the department, I mean, your peers, are they Anglo-Saxon, American, Israelis, or are you mixing them?
So actually, most of them are Israeli. Most of them are Israeli. I've also met other Americans, other Americans, and also English speakers from around the world in the Technion. But I definitely also my roommate is someone I started doing courses with. We do projects together. He's an Israeli. I've a couple other very close friends that it's I'm very thankful for the people that I met here, and
any hobbies?
For me, it's not a problem.
Any hobbies that you're taking or you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. I first of all, I love sports. I'm all about sports and playing sports, following sports, playing fantasy football, just a lot of things to do with that. Recently, I joined, in the first couple semesters in the Technion, I was playing squash. I also play squash with friends on campus, and yeah, recently I got into cooking a little bit, but I'm not gonna list that as a hobby yet.
That's my department, biotechnology and food engineering. So when you're up to sharing some food, let me know.
All right, you might have to wait a little bit.
Okay, thanks a lot for sharing your story with us. And now I'd like to introduce Hila Rubinstein.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Hila. I'm 30 years old. I was born and raised in Israel. And now I'm in my first year as a PhD student in the Faculty of Chemistry in the Technion. My journey to the Technion is a story about determination and overcoming my own insecurities, where I never felt like science and chemistry and technology is my strong suit. So after I graduated from high school, I joined the Army. I served in the Intelligence Corps Unit 8200. And this job that I did was actually very technological. It was very challenging and stressful, but extremely satisfying. And I was very good at my job, and I even won an excellence award for my service. So I feel like in the Army is where I really started to gain confidence that I can actually be in technology subjects and learn chemistry and research for my career. So after I completed my Army service, I enrolled to undergraduate studies in the Technion. And now I'm in my PhD. I did all my degrees in the Technion in chemistry, my bachelor's, my master's, and now my PhD. Right now, I'm working on 2 projects. The main project I'm going to do for the rest of my PhD, I'm going to start this in a few weeks from now. It's about doing air quality monitoring. And the unique thing is that we're trying to do this online and on site, so to get immediate results on maybe pollution or very low concentration of contaminants in the air. And we're also trying to do this without doing any analytical process on the air itself, so just measuring directly from the air. And the other project that I'm working on right now, I studied this in my master's. We're trying to develop a method to do imaging and chemical analysis through surfaces that we cannot see through, for example, the skin of our body. So it's sort of like an MRI or an X-ray or a CT machine where people can do tests, and this machine will image the inside of their body, and at the same time maybe do chemical analysis on abnormalities that may be present. So I kind of like doing also a biopsy at the same time, just not in an invasive manner. So, and also this technology can be implemented in many fields, like security, for example, to find hidden explosives, or maybe food safety monitoring, like finding abnormalities or diseases inside fruits and vegetables through their skin. So this is very exciting. I receive a fellowship from the ATS, and I'm very grateful that I can be here and share with you my personal story, where the fellowship and the Technion supported me a lot at a very hard time in my life, where I was about to drop out of school, basically, because in the last year of my master's, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. Unfortunately, she passed away a year and a half ago. And this was the last year of my master's, and I wasn't really present in the Technion during that time. I couldn't do any experiments, getting results. I didn't get to write my paper and submit everything. And I was about to lose my fellowship. So at the end, I went to the faculty for help, basically. And immediately, really immediately, they extended everything for me. They gave me a few more months to finish everything, to complete all my experiments, to write my paper. And I think the most important thing is that they also extended my fellowship during that time of those extra months that I got. So this is amazing. I'm very grateful that I can be here and share this with you. And I want to show you now some pictures of my life a bit. I want to share my screen. Wait. Okay. Okay. So in the right is Tal, my fiance, and me. We're living together, and we're waiting for the Corona pandemic to be over so we can get married finally. We already had to postpone our wedding date twice now because of all the quarantines we had. On the left here are my parents and me at graduation from the Technion for my bachelor's degree. This was an amazing day. They were so proud of me. It was so emotional, such a happy day overall. This is a picture of the Golan Heights where I served in the army. I was on a tiny post on this mountain here. This is the view I woke up to every day. It's an amazing place. I warmly advise all of you, if you ever visit Israel, to come and hike in the Golan Heights, because it's really magnificent. And this is me and some pictures from my lab. This on the left here, you see the laser that I'm working on. This is our energy source. It's a very unique laser. It takes up almost the entire room, basically. In the middle here, in the middle picture, this is the table where I set up and build my experiments for the day. And on the right is me with a mask. This is before masks became mainstream. This was taken before COVID-19. This is the famous N95 mask. Little did I know that these are going to be so desirable. So yeah, that's it. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Hila, thank you for sharing your story. And I also know that you are a cat lover. Is that correct?
Yes, I have 2 cats, adorable cats. Usually they pop up on screen every time I work on my computer because they love to sit on my keyboard. But now they're asleep.
I thought they love chemistry.
Later. What?
I thought they love chemistry, so they want to learn from your...
Yeah, you would think. They are more interested in eating and sleeping right now.
And are you involved in any teaching in your department?
Yes, I'm a TA. I work in a lab, in students' lab. I'm a lab instructor. It is really great. I'm very passionate about passing on my love of science to students. And I'm also very happy that I can do this during the Corona time, because as a student myself, I know how stressful courses can be. So I can really relate to the students, and I'm really trying to help them as much as I can during this hard time, because you can never know what's going on in their lives. Maybe they don't have a place in their home where they can study and prepare. Maybe they have financial issues. So I'm very happy that I can help them in any way that I can, actually. Yes.
Thank you very much. And thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And now I would like to introduce Alon Romano. Hello, Alon.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Professor Fishman. Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
First of all, I'm very happy and honored to be here today. So thank you for your time. My name is Alon Romano. I'm a PhD student in the Faculty of Biotechnology and Food Engineering. I'm 34 years old. I'm married to Michal, which is a software engineer in Intel. She's also a Technion graduate. And we have 3 adorable children, ages 6, 4.5, and 2.5. So I was born here in Israel, but when I was 2 years old, we moved to the United States, to San Francisco, California. I attended a Jewish school, the Hebrew Academy in San Francisco. And when I was 9 years old, we came back here to Israel, to the city of Rosh Hashanah, which is near Tel Aviv. So growing up, I wasn't a good student. I was a very average student. I was a troublemaker. I liked soccer, I liked girls, and I didn't like school. But 2 things really changed my perspective. The first one is that my parents got divorced and my father left. And my big brother and myself were left to take care of my ill mother and my 2 siblings. And in that stage, I understood that if I don't take care of my future and my education, no one will. And the second thing that really changed my perspective was a delegation to Poland. So here in Israel, a lot of the high schools send delegation student teams to Poland to see the concentration camps and the ghetto in Warsaw. And for me, it was enlightening. A very significant experience that, and when I came back to Israel, I said I was a lot more patriot, and I knew that I wanted to contribute more to my country. And my dream was to be a combat soldier, but unfortunately, because of different health issues, I was recruited to the intelligence, force in the Northern Command, and later on, I was also sent to officer course. So overall, it was 7 years in the Army. 3 mandatory and 4 additional years. The time in the Army was great. A lot of different experiences. I did a lot of important things, I think. But after 7 years, I needed to decide what I want to do. On the one hand, a military career, but on the other hand, I had a dream. I wanted to be a student in the Technion. The only problem was I didn't have enough money, or I thought I didn't have enough money. Since most of my money went to support my family. But I took my chances and I started my first degree in the Faculty of Biotechnology and Food Engineering. And I was very, very lucky to receive a scholarship from Mr. Martin Moschel. And with his scholarship, I succeeded 4 intensive years of studying and graduated. And I later on proceeded to a second degree, a master's degree under the supervision of Professor Yuval Shoam. And I'm currently a PhD student in the laboratory of Professor Uri Lesmes. So what do we do in our laboratory? So we specialize in food chemistry and understanding how food is digested inside the human tract. And specifically what I do is I try to fabricate or create different protein encapsulation systems for food nutraceuticals. And one of the nutraceuticals is capsaicin. So capsaicin is the active ingredient in chili peppers. It has a lot of health benefits against cancer or obesity, but the problem it's very pungent, it's very hot. And a lot of people do not consume hot food. So what we do is we encapsulate it inside these delivery systems which mask their hotness and making them a lot more bioavailable and bioaccessible in the human gut. So as I said, I'm a PhD student in my last year, and I'm starting to think what I want to do when I grow up. So my wildest dream is to start my own startup and in the biotech or food industry, but I still have 1 year to think about it. And I would like to share a few pictures with you if I can. So let's share screen. So this is my family, my 3 children and my wife. Me and Michal met in the army, although people think we met in the Technion, but actually in the army. So here are a few pictures from my military service. Here you can see I'm very, very glad because 2 years ago I received the rank of major in reserve duty, and I was very glad to achieve that rank. And here are a few pictures from my time in the Technion. So on the right you can see an article from the Jerusalem Post from a few months before. So me and another 3 students were in a European competition, and we were very lucky to also win. The competition is about different food industries that raise different problems, and one of the problems was raised by PepsiCo. They had this spoilage in juices which they did not know how to solve. And me and another 3 students thought about a winning idea, and we were very happy to achieve the first place. And that's all. That's my story. Thank you very much.
Alon, can you tell us a little bit about, you are a teaching assistant as well, right? You teach students food technology. So can you tell a little bit about your projects there?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I love to do. So students in our faculty and biotechnology and food engineering, they're very, they go to these analytic labs and always do these sterile procedures. And what me and my fellow assistant researchers do is we take them to this little industry. It's called the pilot, and there's big machinery over there, and there we show them how real industries work. And one of the things that we also do is teach them how to create beer. So beer is not, although it seems very simple, it has a lot of science behind it, from the brewing to the fermentation and the bottling the beer. And our students make great beer. Every year there's a taste panel from a lot of taste panels by specialists here in Israel, and every year the beers are great. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can attest to the excellent taste of the beers. So to say Alon is always invites me also to the tastings, and I enjoy the beer that the students make. So keep up the good job. And thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite Ayelet Hershkovitz.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Eretz.
Hi.
It's an honor to be here, so thank you very much. My name is also Ilenes. I am 35 years old. I'm married to Adi, who is also a Technion graduate, and we live here in Haifa with our two beautiful young children. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a son who's 1.5 years. A couple of years before I was born, my parents made Aliyah. They immigrated to Israel from the United States, fulfilling a lifelong dream. I grew up in a very Zionistic, very loving home. I have with my twin brother and a younger sister, 2 dogs, parrots, hamsters, everything you can imagine. Most of my childhood was spent in Rosh Hashanah, which is a city about 20 minutes away from Tel Aviv. And starting from the 9th grade, I started volunteering for Israel's ambulance service, for the Magen David Adom, for the MDA, as a provider of first aid. I was also in charge of the volunteers in my city, supervising their training and their schedule and any personal matters. After high school, I served in a classified intelligence unit in the IDF. I served for 6 years and I attaining the rank of captain. I was the head of several projects that were at the core of my unit's mission. I was also honored, I was also chosen, I was lucky enough to be chosen to head some of the training programs. And I finished my service with excellence, and I even received a letter of recommendation from Major General Amos Yadlin, who was the head of the intelligence, of the military intelligence at the time. And I also received an Army scholarship for the Technion, which was very, very helpful for me to study here. I still do reserve duty when I'm called. I have friends who are still at the unit and call me whenever they can. And I enjoy it very much, being able to mentor the next generation of soldiers in my unit. And after traveling for a bit after the Army, I decided to study biotechnology and food engineering. I've always known I wanted to become an engineer, and in high school, I loved studying biology and science, so biotech was a good combination for me. At the Technion, I learned how to study, I learned how to be critical, but I think most of all, first of all, I met my husband, who is also a Technion graduate, and I've made friends for life, which is amazing. After my first degree, I continued on for my master's, also at the faculty under the supervision of Professor Amram Mor. There are approximately 1 million deaths every year from antimicrobial resistance, which means that there's bacteria that are pathogenic, they cause disease to humans, and they're resistant to everyday antibiotics. What we did in the lab is we created compounds that weaken these bacteria, and we were able to treat the disease by combining antibiotics that were no longer being used with these compounds. And we even saw with experiments with mice that this was really helpful. It was very interesting. Today I'm studying towards my doctorate under the supervision of Professor Ayelet Fishman at the interdisciplinary program for biotechnology. My research is focused on a treatment of Alzheimer's disease. It is an irreversible neurodegenerative disease of the brain. It affects over 50 million people worldwide, and there is approximately 1 in every 3 people over the age of 65 suffer from this disease, which is incurable. My great aunt had it, and sadly, I have many friends that their family is affected by this disease. As I said, it's incurable, and my research involves using enzymes, which are nature's biocatalysts, to treat the disease. Part of my research is to see how our treatment affects different aspects of the disease. Besides loving my research, it's very challenging, it's very interesting, and I love it. I mean, I can't, I love my work, it's great. One of the things I'm also very passionate about is teaching. During the year, I teach 2 lab courses. I'm a teaching assistant, like the other students here. I teach 2 lab courses. And one of the things I like the most about it is being able to share my love for research and being able to show the undergraduate students what a life is like in research and why they should continue doing what I do. I think it's amazing. I also volunteer. I also received a Teaching Excellence Award for one of the courses, which is always fun. And I also volunteer with high school students, majoring in biotechnology from a local high school. And on the weekends, when the weather permits, I love hiking with my family. I love baking with my 4-year-old daughter. She is a big fan of pink cupcakes. And with that, I'm gonna show you a picture of I'm just gonna share my screen. I'll show you a picture of So this is my family. Adi is a graduate of the Technion. He's a mechanical engineer, and he also received his MBA. That's my daughter hiding over there. She loves baking, and since during COVID has learned how to write her name in Hebrew and in English. I'm very proud. And my son is 1.5 years. He is very good at leaping off the couch to whoever walks by. Now this picture, the next one, this is myself and the other teaching assistants. Ever since COVID started, we have been videoing our prep labs in order to send it to the undergraduate students in order for them to better prepare for the labs that we have here at the Technion. The other teaching assistants are amazing, and this is just one of the colorful labs that we do for the students. And my last picture is just a little glimpse of what my house looks like now during COVID. This last lockdown, my house was like this for about 2 weeks. My 4-year-old wanted a tent to read stories every day. So that's what we did. We had dinner and lunch on the floor for many days. And it just made, I think, this trying time just a little bit happier and a little bit better for everyone. So and that's it. Thank you very much for listening to my story. That's it.
Yeah, so tell me, how did you manage to be in the lab every day and work on your PhD thesis, and to also build a tent in your living room?
Well, building a tent was just me releasing and letting them, understanding that there are things I can't deal with. Practically, my husband and I worked in shifts. Every week we switched. The first week, my husband would leave very early and come back in the afternoon, and I'd go to the Technion and come back home at night. That's the practical manner of it. I think on a more family structure, this past year has been very trying as a couple and as a family. And I think the main thing was understanding that we just have to communicate what we need professionally and emotionally, and certain days, being weeks on end with the kids by yourself is not easy. As much as I love and adore them and they are my life, no, really, it's not simple. And I think beyond that, it's also just being present. I mean, understanding with yourself that when you're working, you need to work and think about that, even though your mind just wants to think about the fact that your kids are going to sleep for a few nights without you. And when you're at home, you have to be at home, putting your phone aside and trying not to think about my next experiment and what my plan is for the next day. That took me some time to separate the both. But it has been, I think, for everyone all over the world, it's been difficult. And I think we've been trying to find the better parts of this, which has been spending time with our kids. We've been able to we've been reading more stories and having more time outside. It's been amazing. And that aspect has really been amazing. Work-wise, definitely it's been trying. And the weekends have now become part of the work week. Finding family time is not necessarily now on Friday and Saturday. That's about it.
I like your positive attitude.
We're trying.
Yeah. I see you're still in the lab, so
yeah, it's my quiet place.
Long day.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Yoav Schumacher.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Ayelet. It's really an honor to be a part of this panel and be able to share my story with you guys. I am a fourth-year mechanical engineering student at Technion. I am originally from Toronto, Canada, where I was born and raised until post-high school, where I decided to come spend a year abroad studying religious studies in Israel, and felt a connection to the land, as well as it was through the time of the many stabbing attacks in the old city, where I was inspired to join the army. I spent some time as a infantry soldier in the Givati unit, and it was a intense time of my life, and learned a lot of lessons and grew up in a lot of ways. I originally planned on going back to University of Toronto, for those of you who are familiar. And once I decided that I wanted to stay in Israel and spend some more time here, i.e. the rest of my life, I looked around for what university could fit my requirements of my best options, and it was pretty clear that Technion would be the clearest option, in that it was the best opportunity that I had, really. And I did in the international school, which I don't know if you're familiar, but the Technion has an international school, which there's an entire undergrad degree in English, both in civil engineering and mechanical. So I started in the English degree in mechanical, and have since moved over to the Israeli program. I have a scholarship from the government that's able to pay for my studies, which is really helpful, as well as help me pay for the dorms that I live in here are subsidized, which is really helpful as well for meeting people, and campus life is really important, and the dorms are an integral part of that. The Technion has really provided me with some unique and wonderful opportunities. I worked for about 1.5 years at the visitor center, the Janet Pollack Visitor Center, where we'd have thousands upon thousands of visits from all over the world, and all types of people, whether it be academics from the US or NASA, or from China in our Guangdong Institute. It was a wonderful way to practice the public speaking and meeting new people, and it was really an honor to represent Technion in that way. I have been thankful to be part of some sports teams here. The Technion provides over 50 sports courses, in which you can some 20 odd teams, and I really found a love for squash, and started as a sports course, and spent a few semesters on the team. But once Corona hit, it was a little bit more difficult to get into the squash court. So I'm hopefully starting on the chess team this semester, which is really exciting for me. I have been working at a lab in the aerospace in the aerospace faculty, which is the Turbo Machinery and Heat Transfer Laboratory. I worked there for a few semesters, and then asked them if I could do my final project there. For those of you who don't know, in the final year of your undergrad, you do a year-long final project where you really try to complete a project relatively independently, obviously with guidance, in order to prepare you for the industry. And I'm doing my final project at this lab, mainly dealing with small jet engines, and it's really been wonderful, unbelievable people to meet and be surrounded with, whether it be in the dorms or in the lab. And on that note, I'd actually like to show you some pictures that are, here we go. So here are just a few pictures of the turbo machinery and heat transfer lab that I work at. This is one of the mini jet engines that we work on. These are many wires with heat sensors and airflow sensors, and then the outflow goes to the outside as to not to injure anyone. This is one of our workspaces, and here are two of our 7 odd 3D printers, which are heavily used for prototyping and very helpful. I live in the Kfar Smacha dorms, which really has been such a blessing. I live in this building over here, just on the bottom, which is where I am now. And this has really provided me with a wonderful community of like-minded, passionate students, and so much so that I've actually stayed with the same roommates for over 1.5 years now. And a little while ago, we had an idea that we wanted to get some extracurricular learning and go a little bit above and beyond what was expected of us. And we decided we wanted to create a drone from scratch. So here's us doing some soldering and the drone coming together. I'm happy to say that a few weeks ago, we actually achieved autonomous flight, which we're really proud of. And now we're working on some software workarounds in order to use. Here's a little camera and there's a computer here in order to do image processing on the drone. And not that this hasn't been done before, but it's really an amazing opportunity, and to do something hands-on is fantastic, especially that it's extracurricular. Really, all in all, it's been an honor to be representing this institution and meeting the people here. And thank you for listening to my story.
Yoav, thank you so much for sharing it. Can you tell me why you decided to switch from the international school, which is in English, to study in Hebrew?
Yes, it's a good question and a long one, and a long answer. I mean,
you have 1 minute.
Perfect. I'll sum it up. A number of reasons. First of all, the international school specializes in a field called mechatronics, and I wanted to specialize in design. And in order to have a little bit more leeway in the courses I was taking at the end of my degree, that the Israeli school provides a more expansive opportunities. So that was the main reason that I switched.
And you find it tolerable? I mean, you study well. I mean, is it the same as we heard before, that the Army prepared you well for learning the language, or?
Poses unique challenges, I can tell you that. Especially everything being on Zoom poses even more unique challenges, but with every difficulty also comes a unique advantage, such as being able to pause lectures in order if you don't understand and rewind. You know, so where sometimes a language issue would be more difficult, there are situations where it can be used as an advantage. Not to say that Zoom is a preferable method of teaching, nor easier, but we work with what we have and give it all we got.
I like the fact that you look at the bright side. It's always good to be positive. Thanks a lot for sharing your story. And now
thank you so much.
I'd like to call on Ann Kitsmiller, please. Last but not least.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be one of the Berger Fellows this year. So like Professor Fishman said, my name is Ann Kitsmiller. I'm a graduate student in the Department of Aerospace Engineering here at the Technion. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I was born and raised in Oregon. It was a really beautiful and idyllic place to grow up. We had a great childhood. Then I studied at Washington University in St. Louis. I completed 3 degrees there and ended up working in the aerospace industry as an engineer in St. Louis for 5 years. So where does Israel come into the picture? I grew up going to Jewish summer camp, and then I also participated in a study abroad program here in Israel in high school called Alexander Muss. And then between high school and college, I came back to Israel for a gap year. And that was a really special year, and I really fell in love with the country. I think at that point is when I knew I wanted to make Aliyah. But you know, being so far away from your family, it's a really big move. And while my grandmother was still alive, it was a really difficult decision to make. So I couldn't justify moving to Israel when my grandma was still alive. She passed away 3 years ago at the age of 93. And at that point, my husband and I decided, you know, it was time to start our next adventure. So we came to Israel together to, you know, start a life here. And that was how I, excuse me, that was how I ended up at the Technion. Is I really wanted to continue my career in aerospace, and I knew the Technion was the best place to do that based on all the connections to industry. And the Technion really is the only school in Israel that has such a strong or at all an aerospace department. So it was a really great place for me to kind of, you know, get settled and be welcomed here in Israel. And I really found my home in the aerospace department. I have an amazing advisor. I do get to work with undergraduate students, which is really special. I get to help mentor them. And I've mentioned, the undergraduate students participate in a senior design project at the end of their degree. So our research project in our department is we are building a research missile. And we have undergrads participating in the project. And us graduate students, we get to help mentor them and kind of teach them things that they might only learn when they get to industry, and they get to see it here, you know, in the lab as we're actually building something together. So the point of our research missile, I'm sure some of you are familiar with some of the work SpaceX has been doing recently. When they launch a rocket nowadays, they land it and recover it, and they're actually able to reuse it for subsequent launches. And this is something very new. You know, no one was recovering rockets up until this point. So that's something that we're actually trying to do with a missile. This is a research missile, not an operational missile. So when we're testing a missile before it gets used in the field, you don't always need it to hit the target and explode. Sometimes if we want to test, for example, a new camera on the missile, all you need to do is see the missile fly, and then it doesn't have to blow up. So we have a way to safely recover the missile, have it land, and then we're able to use it and continue testing on it rather than wasting the entire asset and having to rebuild a new one for subsequent testing. So that's a really unique part of our research. It's a lot of fun. I love working with the undergraduate students. And our project is also a joint project with the Technical University of Munich. So it's, you know, a longstanding relationship between our two universities of collaboration. And our project is supported by the Israeli Ministry of Defense and the German Ministry of Defense, which is, I think, very unique. You know, it's in the countries, both countries' national defense interest to kind of support this project. So that's a little bit about our research. And then outside of my schoolwork in missile building, I also play on the Technion soccer team, which has been, you know, my main friend group here in Israel. It's such a warm community. And I also play on a women's team in the professional league here in Israel. And in addition to that, my husband and I volunteer, like Ilene mentioned earlier at the beginning of the call. We have a seeing eye puppy in training, and she lives with us for about a year. And then we will give her back to the organization where she'll get matched with a blind person, hopefully, and she'll be able to help make their life a little easier going forward. So I'll share a few pictures. Let me share my screen. Okay, so here is a picture of our research missile. This isn't the missile itself, it's a model, a 2/3 size model, and we're doing some testing in a wind tunnel here at the Technion. I'd like to note that the fact that our university has a wind tunnel and multiple wind tunnels is very rare among universities. It's a very expensive lab that is used in industry, and we're really lucky to have one. So this is our research project. Here's a picture of the Technion soccer team from last year. This year we haven't had any games, but we were able to get together for a few practices outside with small numbers. And one thing that's really cool, in my opinion, is that we do have Jews, Christians, and Muslims on the team. So it's a really multicultural, special group of girls. And this last photo is our guide dog puppy. Here on the left, you can see her at 2 months old. She weighed about 12 pounds, and this is the day that we brought her home. And this picture on the right is when she's 10 months old. She already weighs over 60 pounds. And we were actually on campus this day. So there's a nice shot of campus in the background. And she's just been a great addition to our family this year. So thank you so much for letting me share my story.
Anne, thank you so much. I'd like to ask you one thing, as you already had a degree from Washington University in St. Louis. Can you say something about the difference of studying engineering in your other university versus the Technion? I mean, is there anything unique about the Technion from your perspective?
Yeah, I will say in the aerospace department especially, there is a lot more involvement from industry. There are advisors that come over from industry to help the students either with their senior design projects, or students also work during their degrees, which is unique. That's a little less common in the United States. So I think there's a stronger connection between students and industry, at least in our department, which is really, really important and exciting because, you know, in undergrad, students don't always know what it's like to work in industry. And having that connection makes it a little more tangible, or they'll understand what they're getting into once they get into work. So I think that's been different in a good way, you know, just having the connection to industry for the students.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So with that, you've met all our delegation this year, 6 wonderful students, ambassadors of the Technion. And I'm sure that you now understand how lucky I am as a professor here to work with such really wonderful, intelligent, smart, warm people. And I feel very privileged that these are the kind of students that I meet every day when I come to campus. So now I'm happy to introduce Elisa Gilston, who will moderate some questions for us.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor Fishman, and all the students with us today. As always, you are really an inspiration. So I invite everyone to please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit questions that you may have for the students or for Professor Fishman. I'm going to get things started with, it's actually a group of questions all related to Army service. So Ohad, can you explain what it means to be a lone soldier, and do all lone soldiers get an adopted family? Hila, you mentioned serving in the 8200 unit, which is very elite. Can you tell us, or are you allowed to tell us any more about it? And Ayala, you mentioned reserve duty. How in the world does that work with your studies, never mind your family? And how does the Technion support you when you are called to serve?
Should I start?
Please.
Okay. So a lone soldier is, by definition, any soldier who does not live at home and has to fend for himself while he's serving in the Army. Meaning it could be soldiers who came from overseas, such as me and Yoav, and where their families are living, let's say in the States or in Canada, and you're serving in the Army and your parents don't live in Israel. Or it could also be Israeli lone soldiers who, for whatever unfortunate reason, are not living with their families. And the next part was, adopted family. Okay, so not all lone soldiers have adopted families. I specifically was, as I said, I joined the Garin Sabar program, where I, along with 20 other future lone soldiers, we moved to kibbutz, and in that program, we were set up with adopted families from that kibbutz as a part of the program. But there are many lone soldiers who also live in cities, in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, and who live in apartments and take care of themselves also.
Thank you. Hila?
Okay, so I can't really get into specifics of what I did, but I knew from when I was 15, 16 that I wanted to serve in the intelligence corps in the Army. So I majored in high school in the Arabic language. So that led me straight to be in intelligence in the Army. So I utilized some of the Arabic language then there. I served in a very tiny post in the Golan Heights. We were no more than 20 soldiers there. And I participated in some operations where I needed to gather data and assess the situation and make decisions. So it was very, very important. I really felt like I have an impact of things and that I have some value to bring in my service. Yeah, but I cannot get more into details about this.
Thank you. Ayala.
So, hi. Well, during my bachelor's degree, then it was mostly, when I did reserve duty, it was mostly surrounding exam periods or homework assignments. And the Technion was very good at assisting students who are at reserve duty. I would get a different date for an extra exam or things like that. They were very helpful. Now during my graduate, it's either, my professor obviously encourages reserve duty. I think it's one of the beautiful faces of Israel. And with the family, I have an amazing husband who is, we split our time, and he also at times has reserve duty, and I'm at home with the kids, so it's there's no difference.
Teamwork.
Teamwork, definitely. Definitely, we make a very good team, and I think that when I do have reserve duty, then I know in advance, and we set up the household in a way that everyone is okay with me not being there for a couple of days, so it's okay.
Thank you. I think we have time just for one more question, which is actually also geared to a few of you and also to Dean Fishman. So for those of you who are lifers, Hila, Alon, Ayala, each of you, you're earning your 3rd degree from the Technion. So safe to say you've been on campus for 7, 8 years or more. Can you please tell us what has changed on campus in that time, or what's changed in the life of being a student during that time? And then part 2 is, we know the Technion has been trying to improve student life on campus. Dorms have been built, recreation facilities and opportunities have been expanded. What more can be done? What's still missing? And Dean Fishman, you also earned all of your degrees from the Technion, took a 10-year break to work in industry and came back to teach. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on this question as well. Alon, can you start?
Yeah, sure. But there were a couple of questions, so
over the years, how has it changed? How has student life changed? How has the campus changed since you stepped onto campus in your bachelor's? Anything that can still be done?
So in my perspective, I see that the Technion really gives a lot more to the students, scholarships and the dorms. And every year I see that more and more students live in the dorms, and there's new buildings everywhere. It's crazy. But when I was in my first degree, I'm not sure that the dorms had so much rooms. And what should more be done? I think that we need, in my opinion, or our lab or labs next to us always need new machinery, new analytic equipment. These things always get old, and you need to buy new ones, and the new ones are very, very expensive. And in order for the Technion and the Technion labs to be in one line with other universities in the world, we need the high equipment, the expensive equipment, and that's in my perspective.
Anyone else want to quickly chime in, or Professor Fishman, your perspective from the faculty side of things?
Yeah, well, let me say that I agree with Alon that we have a lot of building everywhere. So we see new labs and new buildings popping here, and it's really nice to see that. In terms of dorms, we have now a big project for 2 new towers that are being built and should be ready, I think, next year. That indeed allows us, we're first in the country in terms of the best dorms, the cheapest, the most inexpensive dorms, and in terms of beds that we have. So it's really wonderful to allow the students to be involved on campus life and to be close to the labs and to the teaching facilities. And I think mainly to meet new friends. And I think these friends, I know it from my experience, some of my best friends are those who I studied with, and this is 30 years back. And now they're all in various positions in the food and biotech industry, and they're still good friends from the time we were undergrads here. And so there is a big change, and I definitely agree with Alon that we always need to be in the race for being the best. So, you know, we need the best students, you see them here, and we of course need good facilities to allow them to do the great research they're already doing.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your answers, and thank you to all of our students and to Professor Fishman for being with us today. For those questions that we didn't get to, we'll try to respond to the people who posed them. So keep an eye out for an email with some answers to those questions. And of course, we look forward to seeing the students and Professor Fishman at various breakout programs during the week when we can delve a little deeper into your personal stories, and we're looking forward to that. Special thank you again to Ilene and Steve Berger for underwriting this fantastic annual program, which continues to be one of the most uplifting and popular of all the programs that we hold every year. And to those viewing today from across the US and Canada, I think it's clear that your support of the Technion and its students will have an impact far beyond even what we've heard today. These students represent the excellence and promise of all Technion students. So thank you for joining us. Please visit ats.org or technioncanada.org for information on additional programming with the students and all of our other upcoming programs. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.